Hey there, everybody, and welcome to my first chat and draw video. Um, so I originally had I lost a little bit of the beginning recording in this video, so this part I'm kind of recording after the fact, and I'm just gonna put it in front here. Um, so this is gonna be the first of these types of videos that I'm gonna be making. Hopefully, gonna be doing more soon. Um, and I just posted up some questions, um, asking general stuff about art, about me, about whatever the hell. Um, and people submit those, and then I'll take my time to answer them. And during that time, I'll try and do like a request of, maybe one of the people who asked a question or something during the video. Um, so one important thing is, let's see. Yeah, once again, this is kind of like my first time attempting a video like this, so it was a little weird for me talking so much. I was talking for like an hour and a half straight, and my voice started to kind of crap out, and I was coughing a whole lot. So be prepared for that to kind of become a thing towards the end of the video. Let's see. And yeah, so the re- audio that I recorded at the original time should catch up in a little bit. Until then, you can fast forward some. I'll be sure to have like the specific time itself in the description when you can cut ahead to. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's see. Our next question here is, what is your favorite medium? So we were kind of discussing that a bit. It's kind of at the moment digital, like Krita, anything PC is what I'm getting used to. Let's see. Our next question by Chelsea is, what do you prefer drawing, gender, species, etc.? Okay, so I can get behind this. Let's see. As far as gender goes, I'm not sure that I have a specific thing in mind. I definitely seem to draw female more when I'm just like messing around, but when I'm trying to come up with like character stuff, it seems to be more male. Um, yeah. Oof. And it depends, I guess, what I have in mind at the time too, which is, stuff. Um, oof. Probably gonna have to say male. There's not as much like there's stuff going on, but it's not as much stuff you have to worry about getting right, so it doesn't look weird, as far as gravity's concerned and all that fun stuff, proportions and whatnot. Um, let's see, species. Interesting question. Um, oof. I definitely seem to draw a high amount of like dogs and whatnot. That seems to be a primary focus going on. Um, as far as things go. Like, I try and draw cats and stuff, and it never seems to come out in a way that I can enjoy it terribly well, or just in any way that I'm specifically happy with. But, that just may be the fact that I do my warm ups and other practice, with more canine sort of things and not specifically feline, and it's not like my priority, I guess, so. Ooh. Yeah, see. Trying to draw something here. And just, once again, it's warm up, so we're just doing it. We're not worrying about proportions or setting it up or anything like that beforehand. We're just doing stuff. Yeah. And this snout's like too long and too wide to be feline, so its ears like a circle. It's delicious. Okay. Yeah. Let's see, species, gender. I think as far as setting kind of thing, like place and time or location, I seem to be drawing a lot of like fantasy weirdness. Um, whether that's like dark fantasy, high fantasy, whatever sort of fantasy. That seems to be what I'm drawn towards. Um, I do enjoy sci-fi and stuff, but something about all the right angles just kind of gets on my nerves. Like, I've done years of technical drafting and stuff. So it's not that I can't do that stuff, it's just knowing that I have to take a bunch of extra steps to make sure like everything is perpendicular, parallel, everything is like meshing right as it should be, going off into the horizon, keeping track of all that stuff. Whereas fantasy, I can kind of freely mess with shit because it's not like precisely constructed things in a general sense. It's not machined parts or a square corridor of some sort. It can be like a forest or set of ruins in the middle of nowhere, that's maybe fallen apart over time and has kind of gone into disarray. Um, so I have a little more leeway in as far as like how sloppy and messy I can be with any sort of backgrounds or anything going on there. And same with like weapons and clothing, it's not machined or precisely created things. So outfits between characters don't need to be the same because they're never going to be. Um, and that might be why I just prefer it, is that it's simpler for me. Um, I will have to try and draw more though, like sci-fi stuff, and see if that's really what it is that's bothering me or just Or if it's just, I don't know, I don't have any good ideas for it. That could also be a thing, because there's plenty of stuff in sci-fi I'd like to draw, but it's just never really an idea that kind of like captivates me, or I think about that I don't think has already been done. You know, some sort of aliens thing, or you got Mass Effect and shit now, and a bunch of other like random things that's like, oh, okay, that's already been done somewhere else, so why do I do that anyways? That may be just a thing where I have to wait until the right sort of story or motivation comes along, until I try and tackle that sort of genre of things. Oh yeah, this one I can get behind. Right here. Yeah, it works for me. The kitty cat. Alrighty, let's see. Let's go ahead and look up our next question while I take a drink of coffee here. Ah, that's good. That was another thing. I can't seem to draw or sit down and draw for long periods of time without coffee. Otherwise, I don't know. I just can't do it, man. Alright, Andrew. Would you rather have wings but incurable horrid back pain, or the power of teleportation but the inability to control it? Meaning that you'd be working and then poof, off to Belgium. Alright. Yeesh. I would probably say teleportation. And here's kind of the reasons behind that. Is that, you know, the back pain and stuff, you said, you know, I can't really do anything about that. So, you know, obviously there's nothing fixing that. But the teleportation, you know, as long as I know kind of where I have ended up, I can figure out some way to get back or to do something about it. And I think that's kind of a key difference between the two, is that one of them, as even the negative part of the one of them, is something I can do something about. I'm not suddenly stuck in this situation where I have, you know, I can't lift shit for the rest of my life or whatever. Alright. Oh, that's maybe a bit too much zoom there. Alright. Switch that over. Alrighty, so we're going to try getting a start on this now that I've kind of doodled my way around a bit. I typically like to set up the head and stuff first. Just kind of figuring out relative height if there are multiple characters, or just using the head as kind of like a base of operations for where everything is going to happen. I'm kind of laying that out a little bit. I think we want to have them like facing up, you know, for this picture. When they gave me the reference here, they didn't really give me much instructions in general as to like what they wanted further on down the line. So I'm just kind of winging it here. Haha, wings, you know, haha. And we'll kind of see what I can make happen. Alright. So we're going to draw a snouty snout here thing. Yes, it looks decent size, but it's not like all of it. And it kind of, I don't know if it's a cat bat thing or what our situation is here as far as the species thing goes. But we're going to try and get something remotely close. Kind of lay this out some more. Alright. That'd be about the halfway there. Alright, let's see. Let's look at a different question here. Man, I'm great at this talking thing, right? Alright, next question is, what is the thing that you most love and hate about the fandom? Alrighty. Yeesh. That one's kind of hard for me to answer a bit, just because I have, the Facebook and stuff, and I kind of frequent one or two like Facebook groups and have, some friends and stuff within the fandom. But I don't take part so much. Like, I'll drop by groups and things like that to say, hey, I'm doing commissions, or hey, I got questions and stuff like this, or hey, drop a question because I'm going to do a video. But I don't really participate in that sort of sense. Like, I don't I don't belong to every site. Like, I belong to the sites that I'm gonna host my art on and stuff like that, or where people might want to see it, of course. Twitter, Facebook, the Weasley and FA, of course. But as far as a bunch of those other things I've heard of, like I think the Fur Network or whatever, and then there's Amino. Those things I'm just like, nah, and whatever. Um, from what I have gathered, and just kind of my more sideline view, I guess, um, there seems to be just a higher proportion of younger persons within the fandom and such. Um, and that generally leads to. What's the best way to say it without pissing half of you off? Let's see. Younger individuals seem to not have a full grasp on what it is to like socialize and communicate with other people yet, and often that leads to that quote unquote drama. Um, that people seem to attribute heavily to the fandom and stuff is like, oh, there's just lots of drama and stuff there all the time. But really, it's because there's just a higher percentage of persons, and I'm not discluding myself at all, but it's, I have my faults for sure. I can definitely admit to that. But it just seems to be, yeah, that like higher percentage of persons that don't communicate terribly well or just seem unable to fully consider all of the stuff going on when they try to. And that ends up to people being butthurt, and then wars starting, and people complaining and fighting with each other, and all sorts of things like that. So that may be the thing that I do not like the least, or that I like the least of. I do not like the least, something like that. Um, and the thing I like the most, oof. For that sort of like antisocialness and stuff, there's definitely still a very openness to a lot of things. And that may be, that same part of that, like, still not quite 100% social side. Like, they're open because they just haven't experienced, like, super shitty people yet. Or aren't, like, burnt out enough to be strongly biased against certain people or thought patterns or whatnot. Yeah, we're getting there. What sort of eyes we got going on here? We got like big ol' roundy eyes. Have that looking up to the side. I kind of have some eyes over there, but not going to have that view in right now. So, cool. But yeah, so that might be the thing I like most, is that, it is an open community in that sense, but I think it may be attributed to that negative thing I don't like, that, it's the younger people that haven't exactly been burnt yet, to really put a name on that. They haven't had those negative experiences from any particular group, and that's left them, mostly unbiased. Everyone grows up with their own things. I have my own biases, of course. I'm spouting them right now as you sit here and listen to this video and watch it and whatnot. But I think just in a general sense, that's kind of my observations so far. Alright, draw some teeth, get that in there. And I think what I'll do, since I'm kind of having a little bit of trouble just talking nonstop, especially, so these first couple videos are probably going to be difficult for me to go the full time speaking. I'll either cut this a little bit at some point and maybe fast forward it some, or oof, so ears. Okay. Or I'll probably just limit this to like a pencil sketch like this here and color it out some, but not like full on inking and stuff like that. As I get more videos going on, kind of get more used to this, or I was talking to a friend about doing, videos of multiple of us like talking and just chatting it out and shit like that as we draw. Doing something like that, then I may like increase the amount I'm willing to do, but for now, I'm thinking we're just going to keep it simple for these first couple. Alright. Now we're gonna... The head is like not perfect. I'll probably come back to this for a bit, or in a bit, but this is laid out enough that I can be kind of happy. Like, it's giving me a general picture of like what this area is gonna be like, and that's enough for me to kind of work on the rest of it and give it a similar feeling. So it's kind of like a happy expression, like woo, we're flying, whatever. And kind of the rest of your body is gonna mimic that, whole body language studies and whatnot. And it's kind of something to keep in mind when you're drawing the rest of something. It's like, okay, they're in a good mood, so they're not going to be like a standoffish posture or kind of like guarding or anything like that. They're going to be fairly open and loose and like woo, kind of having fun with things, postures and kind of expressions physically. All right, going to the groiny area here. All right. And yeah, and when you're kind of laying this stuff out, kind of like with the head and stuff, it's not important that you get the proportions. Well, the proportions need to be close, but it's not important you get everything perfect right away. This is just kind of the sketchy layout portion of your drawing. You just kind of want to get everything roughly in the ballpark, and you can kind of touch it up and come back in a little bit and get that out. Because it's, for me at least, for my drawing, it's important to have the essential character of what's going on sort of laid out, so that helps influence the rest of whatever it is you're doing, or like your final product here. Yeah. Doing some shoulders here. This is going to be our elbow. And, a lot of this, too, you should, like, fully lay out. If you want to get it exactly anatomically correct, you want to lay this out and kind of refine it and make sure it's all, all proportional. You can take a measuring stick or something, whatever sort of tool you want to use, and kind of gauge it all out and make sure, okay, it's at this angle, but this should be about right, etc., etc. For me, I'm more of a fan of just kind of like winging it, and I don't know, I'm definitely more on the speed and just doing stuff, as opposed to like, I want to do high quality, like, realistic shit. We're having fun here. If it's not fun, it's probably not something I'm gonna do, really. And I think that may also go back to why I don't do so much sci-fi, like I mentioned before. It's a lot of work just to make sure everything's like, okay, this is all driving together, this is all at the correct angles, etc., etc., etc. If you want to be right with that, it's a lot of work and a lot of setup and a lot of extra stuff that I'm typically not in a mood to deal with. I've done stuff like that before, of course, but in general, it's not what I'm gonna do when I pick up the tablet and stuff, and I'm like, I want to draw. It's not my go-to. Alright. So just kind of like roughing out some fingers and stuff here. I'm gonna keep like I mentioned before, body language loose, hands aren't really doing anything, they're just kind of there. They're not grasping or gesturing or anything like that. They're loose and then going in progress. Oh man, coffee is good. Alright. And we got this going on. This sort of the digitigrade. But this whole feet thing they have pictured here kind of throws me. Alright. Let's see. See what I can do with this. Get some leg action. That's some sweet legs, brah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I have to figure out something I want to do with that. Maybe just leave it like this and make sure the toes are visible. There we go. Alright. Alright, I suppose I should look at another question while I am out of stuff to talk about. I'm not terribly great at volunteering information about myself, which is kind of why I asked for questions and stuff, It's helpful to have some sort of guideline of, like, things people may want to hear about, because I sure am not great at volunteering. Alright, let me just finish this one up. Alright, that doesn't look great, but I'll go with it for now. Alright. One thing is that any sort of duplicate questions and stuff I got asked, I will not answer. I'll just move on until we get a new question. I'll have to do something about that later on for the next one. Alright. So let's see. I got asked what the reason was that I started drawing. Okay. The reason for that may be like my mother encouraged kind of like artistic output like early on, setting me out in the front yard with like finger paints and stuff like that, and general supply of coloring books throughout most of my childhood sort of deal. And that may be like where it began, but I know like over the years I've definitely done just a lot of drawing in general. I'm kind of stuck on exactly how I want this hand here. Yeah, we'll just go out. But yeah, it was just kind of always that thing I've done to like pass the time or just for fun in class. Like, I wasn't a great student and I didn't like to pay attention, so I draw like stick figure wars and whatnot, like straight up just stick figure stuff when I was little and just like, ah, and I got a grenade and I'm gonna chuck it at you stuff. But yeah, kind of over the years, I kept trying to do more and more things, and that was horrible. Get away. Like more and more stuff is kind of like, okay, I want to draw this now, or like this is cool, I want to try and do something like that. And eventually, like as time went on, I just got better at things. I'm obviously still not great, but I am infinitely better than where I started. Like, I threw away a lot of my old sketchbooks because I just like, oh dear God, why? Trying to draw like Blue or something from Blue's Clues, and it looks like some sort of deformed monster. Like when I first started drawing, it was the worst. Or drawing some like really buff dude and he has like a 24 pack or some shit. I mean, I'm not gonna blame myself for not being able to draw well that early, but it's like this stark contrast between now and then is just striking. Um, Even within the last year, like looking at some of the stuff that I posted about a year ago, like little over a year ago now, compared to like what I'm doing now, is there's a big jump going on there, and it's interesting for me to see, and I enjoy it. It's nice to see like, oh hey, there's actually stuff like progressing here. I'm not stuck in a freaking corner, just doodling away for nothing. All right. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, I've never taken any actual art classes or anything like that, so I'm obviously missing stuff, or, until I do, there may be some stuff that's kind of like just lost to me, or I may be going about it in a more complicated way than I need to be. And especially when you see some of those like higher profile artists and stuff within the fandom, it's like, oh yeah, they've totally either dedicated their lives and all their time to drawing and learning about this stuff, or it's what they do for work, or they've gone to school for that. So you kind of have to respect that. At the same time, I'm totally jealous, like whenever I see somebody, but pretty much everybody, that just draws better than I do, and I'm just like, fuck. Because, I have my own life, and I try and do stuff and get outside, so I don't draw all the time. It's, my drawing is more mood-based, and, like, when I feel like it, okay, we'll sit down for a bit and do something. But it's, or also, typically, when I have a project or free art to do. Excuse me. Man, this coffee isn't helping, apparently. Typically I need some sort of motivator or whatnot to kind of get me going and to get the juices flowing, so to speak. Alright, so we're going to do some lines in here. Yeah. And like I said, I think we're just, for the first video, we're going to keep it simple. As videos progress, we'll try and fully ink and paint out and super shade everything and get that all super cool. But for now, I'm just gonna have some fun with it. That's all we're gonna do here is have fun with it. And if it's not fun, it ain't gonna be worth doing. Alright. Kinda wanna fluff these up and thin them out some. There we go. Yeah. Alright, just because there's not a whole lot of clothes and stuff going on there. But we're going to add some, I'm thinking, just because it feels like something I should do. Even if it's just some sashy robe things, which, some sort of flying character thing. Doesn't seem like it'd be too out of place. Alright. Give me a minute. No, let me kind of lay this out some, and then I'll pop open another question, because as much as you enjoy watching me draw, probably want something else going on while I do it. You'll notice I'm kind of not using a separate layer when I'm doing the clothes right now, and that's typically, like, when I'm just doing a sketch drawing like this, I don't bother separating it all out. When I get to, like, inking and stuff, or, like, I plan to, like, fully do something, then I'll separate it out, just so I can go a piece at a time, or change one part without worrying too much. But for this, we're going hard and fast to just, getting it done. Trying to get this out of the way and over with, because I'm not terribly entertaining, but I'm hoping that eventually I'll get to that point where, people are here to listen to me talk about random bullshit, a little bit. Alright, we gotta groin this up. Get groined. Alright. Yeah. Go. Alright, let me pull out that next question before I get too much further. We gotta totally do more stuff on there, of course, but alright. Let's see. Just to ask, how often do you draw your own OCs? Well, I can answer that pretty quick. I draw my own character that I use to represent myself, you know, that whole Sona thing. But that's pretty much it. I don't have a whole lot of, like, original characters so far. I don't have any fully fleshed out projects. So I have a lot of, like, character ideas or, like, things that I'm like, okay, this might be it. But nothing, like, solidified as, this is this person, this is this thing, this is what this is, you know? So it's not, I don't have a whole lot, like, typical, what you would think of as an original character or whatnot. Alright, so, advice for people who have trouble with making line work look 3D. So what I can guess there is kind of having things look, you know, adding depth and stuff to your characters. And just kind of a few things, I guess. So as you saw earlier, we're going to go ahead and make another layer here. Alright. So as you saw earlier, like when we started the head, actually, we're going to do some of this too and be all like, oh, I'm going to choose green because green is awesome. If you didn't know, green is awesome. If you noticed earlier, we kind of lined out like where the snout was, you know, in a closed position. This mouth is obviously open, so it's a little longer, but we originally laid it out for closed. And yeah, we kind of fleshed this out some and like, woo, this is over this way. So a good way to help make things look more three-dimensional, add depth to things, is break them down into shapes. This is stuff you're gonna find in like most articles and sort of books and stuff on drawing, is break everything down into shapes. So we kind of have like a cylinder here that's kind of like squared off at the end. You have your circle for the head. You have your other cylinder for the neck. And doing that, you can kind of see like, okay, this is obviously the front side, but there's also this other side that goes around here in back. You know, the head, this is a neck here, but this is kind of where the head is pivoting, is, you know, in this spot right here. It's where they both connect and it's a center line. Laying out and understanding these shapes kind of helps you create depth, and you'll notice more like here in the torso, you know, we kind of have our big old chunk of a torso, and then these arms are like two balls, like the shoulders are a ball kind of deal if you want to do it that way. And then they have like cylinders, you know, the arm is, this upper arm is like a cylinder, you have another ball here where that joint is, and then you have a second cylinder here. So by laying this out, you can see, okay, there's this ball here, but the cylinder, the arm is going backwards off into the distance. So that means that the cylinder, we're gonna redraw it up here, you know, it's going off into the horizon back here. The cylinder is going to be sideways, but this side will be facing us. We can see this side plainly, but it'll be going away this direction. And, you know, there is another side to the cylinder, but it's not facing us, so we can't see that. So understanding, you know, if this cylinder were completely straight, like if we were looking directly at this side here, it would just look like a bar. You know, that's what that same cylinder would look like if we were looking at it right here at this spot straight on, as opposed to, this kind of 45-degree angle we have going on here, like, this other view is from this side. And it's just keeping that in mind, is that everything you want to draw has some sort of depth. This leg is round on this outside. It's not some like flat thing. Laying that all out, we have our thigh that's gonna continue. This is a big ol' chunk. This is a cylinder on its own with another cylinder coming off of it. Oh man. And I think that's just a good point to start from, is whenever you're gonna draw, laying it all out into shapes. You're gonna hear this from everyone, but it's what you need to do. Lay it all out into shapes and kind of understand that there is not only, this side to the shape that you're gonna see, but that it also eclipses around. Like if you were to cut this guy in half, or girl, cut this person in half, you'd see the spine right there. There's like goo and organs in here and like pelvis and whatnot. It's not just a flat front side. There's a whole bunch of extra shit going on here all the time. Hoo boy, I like to cough a lot. One thing to just keep in mind is that shading is going to be a big tool in kind of making things look, or adding depth to things without trying too much harder. So you can see kind of like we have our character here, but if we were to like scribble, so say like we have a light source coming straight down, we would scribble, some shade under here. So, because the sun's coming down, hitting us now, not exactly going through. We'll shade in here, a little bit here. There's some light getting in there, but it's not like direct light. Shade a bit on the bottom, because it curves around. It's not like a complete flat-sided jaw. It curves a little bit underneath because of the bone and stuff like that. And then we'll shade in here. Basically all the sides that will be opposite of the direction of your light. And then also, keep in mind, exactly like we mentioned before, the shape itself. Because a cylinder like this, it's eventually going to roll around until there's a side, that's not directly being contacted by light anymore. So for us, that would probably be about like right here, and that would be about where the shade starts to take over. And it would be the darkest, furthest away from the light, a little bit of medium before that, and then lightest kind of near that borderline. Man, it's tickly in my throat today. But if you had, say, like a satellite dish shape, kind of that curve right there, you may end up with something different and say, like, this is a, some sort of satellite dish, whatever, that is angled slightly. You would have light coming down, and because of the angle of it, you got to decide this stuff when you start drawing. It's going to not hit anything on this upper side, and instead kind of hit everything towards this bottom end. Right here, so like all that stuff, this will all be light here, but the rest of this not being in direct sunlight, would be a bit darker, assuming it was angled correctly. So it's keeping the angle of the light and the shapes on the body itself, where it is, and exactly, like if it's concave, if it's convex, if it's round, if it's a flat surface. Flat surfaces generally are easier to shade because it's, our light coming from, say, like, kind of towards the back or whatever. from here. This would all be light up here, but these are all, because it's a flat surface, they're directly out of the light, so they're going to be, you know, darker. They're not going to be pitch black because they're still like ambient light all around, like reflecting off of other stuff. But they're going to be immediately darker just because there's no round over here. It's a straight, flat cutoff, so they're going to be immediately a bit darker. And this all gets confusing when you have multiple light sources. And at that point, you may have to go like one at a time and sort of like group out the areas and see like, okay, how dark is this going to be? How many light sources are actually on it, etc., etc. So that'll be a thing you'll just have to mess with in time. So similar to the shapes and stuff, it's just going to be practice and it's not only just practice, it's making sure that it's a conscious choice in your mind how you are approaching it and how you're reasoning it out. Let's see. Because, you know, you can if you can practice all you want, but if you're practicing without a target, without a goal, without a reason, you know, you're just doing effort and hoping that you gain some sort of insight from that. And, you know, I'm not saying you won't, but it's a lot better to know, like, okay, we're messing with this and we're thinking deeply about this today. And, you know, I want to draw this sort of thing and then spend some time looking at how I think the light would work on it. Gosh dang. Man, talking for a while is really killer on your throat. Alright. So yeah, and there are plenty of like real life photographs to look at too. Looking at the human body in shadow for anything like this. If you're doing human stuff, you can set up, you know, your own objects at home under a bright light somewhere. Delicious coffee. And generally, you know, you have some opportunities to kind of see stuff and check it out. All right. Let's find another question. What's your favorite? No, we kind of answered that. When did I start drawing? First thing, no. I don't know about that question. It's whatever. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'll do that. If I could make a hybrid of two species, what would it be? Totally be possum and a snake. Possum nagas. They're freaking adorable. I've made a few, and I don't know. I think they'd look super cute. I don't know. That's it. Yeah. Just gonna do that now here for funsies, because now it's on my brain. But that's, yeah, I mean, I don't really think about hybridizing too much or messing with stuff. I like to just draw a lot of animals and stuff as it is. Sometimes I'll set out, you know, in monster making mode and try and come up with something weird. But for the most part, not so much. Yeah. Let's see. Get that reptile-y nose going on there. Get some big-ass fangs. And that tongue, bro. You know, it's a sketch. Don't be afraid to sketch. It doesn't always have to be perfect. Sometimes you're just lining out an idea for a project you want to do later on. So possum nagas. They're adorable. Okay. So let's see, for this guy, we totally want some more robage. Or just something. Alright. There we go. Just to kind of cover up stuff, you know. Because robes have that cling to the skin there because we're flying off to the left a little bit. And we're coughing. That's good. I don't want to be a Pokemon. Alright. Yeah, right there. Happy little loincloth thing. Or toga piece, whatever. Alright. Yeah. And we'll do, like, one more thing. Yeah, just to... I have no idea how this logically works out, I think. I have a somewhat of an idea, but I'm just doing robes. Random wrappings. I'm not particularly trying to get it amazingly perfect for a free sketch and whatnot, you know. Alright. And while it's artistic nudity and whatnot, just in general, better safe than sorry and whatnot. I don't know what YouTube's whole deal on all that is. I don't want to chance that. And add some more rope just so it looks like it's wrapped around a few times. Go. Coolio. Oh yeah. It's a nice basic free thing. And we're gonna have some wings and stuff going on here. Oh boy, wings. Wings and me, like, never get along. Buffalo wings and me get along great. But, wings on a creature and me are just bad news. Oof. So let's see if I can do something that doesn't resemble just a pile of steaming crap stapled to someone's back. Alright. Just want to kind of lay out the main armature, so to speak. And it's a fairly simple thing right here. Alright. Something I do is I draw more with my wrists than I do my shoulder, which is a big no-no. If you can, and you can get yourself to do this, practice drawing more using just your shoulder, not like moving your wrists around and stuff. Just because, you know, your wrists are going to wear down. Like, it doesn't matter if you're particularly young, or you're not going to think it does, but it's your wrists will wear down a lot faster over your lifetime if, you know, you're using them all the time to draw. And if drawing is something you want to do for a long time, you kind of need to keep your wrists intact. And anything you can do to kind of help that out, like drawing with your shoulder, is going to help you out in the long run. So I definitely recommend doing anything you can to try and make that sort of change or keep that going. If you're already doing that, yay for you. And maybe picking up some sort of like wristband or anything like that to keep yourself from messing up your wrist too much over time. And 20, 30, maybe even 40 years later from now, you're going to think back to it and be like, damn, I really should have listened to him. Because it's going to friggin' hurt. When you can't even pour yourself a cup of coffee like I have right here. It's delicious. Without a severe wrist pain. Alright, we're just going to do some lines in here, I guess. Alright. And, oh, I'm on the wrong thing. Man, I'm silly. Yeah, just sketch that out a little bit. Cool, because, yeah, as I mentioned, me and Wings, we just don't get along. It's very much a hate-hate relationship going on. I hate them, they hate me, and we're all one big family, whatnot. Where's this layer? 2, no, 3, no, 2. Alright. That is another thing. Just general housekeeping stuff is to make sure you're labeling your layers. If you're going to have something that you're doing an in-depth project on, or you expect to spend a lot of time doing, just you're going to save it and leave it for like a day, come back to it, and then have to figure out again where the hell everything went off to, and what layers it's on, and what exactly you were planning on doing with all those layers. So, by labeling them all out beforehand, you kind of save yourself a little bit of headache and stuff later on. Okay. As for me, I'm just trying to do this like really fast and get something done and just kind of move on, so to speak, and have this over with. Because as amazing as I am, as I mentioned, not the great conversationalist. Right. Let's see. How would you suggest someone practice facial structure? The catch is that the usual face building out of rough shapes doesn't work well for this particular person. Okay. We can approach this. Alright. What I'm going to suggest right away is similar to what I mentioned before. That whole making sure you know your shapes and whatnot. You mentioned those don't work well for you. That's fine. But it's still something you need to know. Regardless of how well it works for you. You need to know the rules before you can mess with the rules, I guess. And I certainly do not know all the rules. But what I will suggest is that drawing people in public, like, you don't have to go out and draw people's dogs or just everyone you see, but like find somewhere nice in public to sit. Just kind of like if you were going to people watch or whatnot, and spend some time and just really quickly sketch out people that you see walk by. This will kind of help you out because it's not the same as like anthropomorphic facial structure, but it's, as I mentioned a minute ago, you got to know the rules before you can break them, and it kind of gives you a good basis from which to start on. They're not like terribly different. The anthropomorphized is, something giving human characteristics in the first place anyways. We're gonna do no stuff right here. Yeah. Coolio. And right there. Yeah. And so the reason that's cool is because, say, like, you sketch an old lady on the street, you just give her a rough shape really quick. You don't have to be precise. It's like I mentioned before, it's just going fast and trying to lock down that thing you saw before it kind of goes away and leaves your mind, before you get bored and move on to something else. Just so you're aware, there are no old ladies walking through my apartment right now, so I'm just kind of drawing this out of my butt. But, that's kind of the idea. You just want to do it like really quick, like this. That doesn't look like an old lady right now because of that. That is gross. Why did I do that? Doesn't look like an old lady. Now that I'm getting further into it, looks like just random dude. Give him like neck fat. Yeah, we'll name him Neck McFatterson. Got it. There you go. Like, sad.
dude. Yeah, and he's got hair and shit. And he's sad. Um, and a good thing with this is that you can draw pictures of people and stuff online, but drawing people in public, in person, your eyes are kind of like once again, mentioned with the shapes before. The shapes are extremely important. Like, numero uno, understand the shapes of shit. Um, but your eyes, like seeing an object in the real world as opposed to the computer. Like the real world, your eyes can see like, okay, here's a shape. They can see like the shape has depth. It goes around here and up here and stuff like that. Your brain, there's an extra part of your brain that is activated and used in person in the real world when you're looking at stuff. Whereas if you were to look at, say, your phone or a computer screen or anything with a picture of the same exact thing, say it's our sphere again that I crappily drew. Your brain is gonna see this and just hit the screen. Like, okay, the screen is flat. Okay, the screen is flat. Okay, the screen is flat. You're not gonna activate the same parts and see the real depth behind the thing as if you were to see it in person. You don't see it in motion, moving around. You don't get to spin it around usually, unless it's one of those fancy 3D turntable things. And even then, the screen is flat. You're still just you can consciously make it out, but your brain isn't drawing the same connections as you would if you saw it in person here. So, going out, sitting in a park, drawing random people that walk by, um, or even just light posts, trash cans, cars, whatever it is that floats your boat. Just do it because it's giving you that additional information you're not getting from looking at random pictures you can Google. And, real life experience and kind of building your own amount of references that you keep locked away in your brain is a good thing. Inspiration. Just, you've seen this kind of guy on the street before. You can remember him. He had a funny face. You can draw him again later on for maybe a character you need for just a background thing. Or use him as inspiration from what you can remember of him for some sort of anthro character, etc., etc., etc. There's plenty of things you can do with that information afterwards, too. Not just practicing. Okay. Am I on the wrong layer again? Where am I at? I think I'm on the wrong layer. There we go. And see, that's why it's nice to label your layers. Alright. Go wristy wrist. I think that's good enough. And so, we're going to go ahead and just give this a quick coloring. Just cuz. Right. Boop. Need this new layer. Got black. Switch that right there to gray. Switch it to this. Coolio. Alright. So I'm just gonna... What I am doing here is just building out the area. There's plenty of different ways to do this, like what I'm doing right now. If I had inked the drawing, you could just select around it and just select, the area I inked and just go ahead and use a bucket fill on that real quick. But since I'm not going to bother inking it, and it is... What is it? It is rough enough that I can't use like a magic wand select and just select all the white area. Like there's plenty of like random floaty chunks and stuff like that that are going to be left over that won't look too great. I'm just going to go ahead and manually take this for a moment and just kind of fill in the sort of area I want to paint. Like sketching before, I'm not stressing it too hard, I'm just doing it. And that may be, at least for me right now, that is my major struggle, is just getting in front of the computer sitting down and actually doing a thing. Because we all have life, we all have school, we all have work, we have friends and other things, and video games, and drinking for some of us, and walking the dog for others, people we know we'd rather spend our time with. There's plenty of that going on in all of our lives. So finding a way that you can easily approach drawing on a regular basis is going to be super important. And, it may be for a lot of people, and I know it is for myself, approaching it knowing, like, hey, I'm just doing this for fun. It's not a chore. It's not work so much. I'm planning on starting my own. I've done my own comic and stuff like that before. So, or I just recently finished it. What am I saying? So I've approached it as work, and I could still do that way because it's what I want to do for work. But it's if you can approach this like, hey, this is fun. I want to do this. And not approaching it with like, oh god, I gotta do this because of, I got paid to do this, or I'd said I'd do this for somebody, but I don't really want to, or etc., etc., etc. If it's something you don't want to do, then just say no. It's having a positive reason to draw, to sit down and make the effort, and while the outcome of your drawing may not be what you envisioned or what you would hope for, what you should be glad with is that the fact that you took the time to practice and get that drawing in. Because that is often just the hardest step, is simply doing a thing. And, there's some of us that are just like, woo, I can do whatever the hell I want. And good for them. I, am super jealous, to say the least. But, there are a lot of us that are often distracted or have different priority systems, is another way to put it. There's the drawing for you may not be what it is that is your major calling, or, maybe, gosh dang. Maybe it's just friends and stuff and whatever. There's a whole bunch of shit. And school should definitely be your priority over drawing. Because, drawing is fun and all. But, you just have to get through the school in the beginning. And once you get through high school and some college and stuff, you don't have to do that again. You can totally go back if you want to and do it again. But you build yourself up a nice base from which to move forward with the rest of your life. That's where the school is very important. Okay. So I've kind of built up my base, like where I'm going to color and stuff like that. Krita is super nice in that I have a alpha lock right here for the layer. So if I click this button, it means that only the colors and opacities already on the layer are the ones going to change. So a good way to illustrate this is say green, which is the best color. If I were to draw out here, nothing. But as soon as I go on to here, it's green, and I can just have fun with it. And it's not going to change any non-color like out here. I haven't colored out here, so it's free from any sort of mishaps and won't cause any more mess. Okay, so that's just what that button does. I'm not sure what other programs have that, but I'm sure, if you look for like opacity lock or whatever, something similar enough, you should be able to find that. Alright, so the main fur color is black, but we don't want an exact black because my lines are pretty close to that, and it would just blur it all out. So I'm going to go ahead and roughly fill this in. Or at this point, yeah, I could just use a bucket since it's all opacity locked. There we go. And making sure to go over anything that... Oof. That doesn't look right. So we're going to unlock it for a second and manually go in some. We're going in. Ta-da. And like I said, this is just a sketch really quick that I'm going to color. I'm not going to bother inking and going the full distance right now. My throat seems to not be holding up well from all the coughing I can gather. And then also I'm thinking, I'm running out of questions. So, that's a good thing. The more questions you give me, the longer I'm going to be drawing. So that's something to keep in mind for the future. Alright, and I'll need more water and shit, or I'll have to like break it down into multiple dealios. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead and copy this color here, and zoom in a bit more. Just kind of fill this in right here. How dare you? Switch to erase up there. Alright. Yeah, right there. Coolio. Alright, and back to normal. Cool. And color this in. Cool. Underside of the wings are the same color, blue on the back side, so I have to do that for the other wing. Let me see. Let me see if there's another question in here. Alright. Drawing me, once already decided drawing. We covered a favorite subject matter, favorite art medium. My favorite color is green. Green is the best color. Alright. See, this duplicate question. Let's see. What is your... Oh yeah, so this is Emily's question here. So we'll go ahead and do this one. What is your opinion on closed species? What is your personal persona? How did you get into fur stuff? What is your favorite species? I think that one will go along with the second question. How would you go about helping someone create an OC? Alrighty, so that first part, the closed species. I don't know. I don't particularly see the point of it. Oh wait, oh shoot, I forgot to lock the layer again. Hold on a second. There we go, lock, there we go. Cool. Because closed species are nice and all, and the thing is that like even with the natural copyrights and stuff people are given, without it being like officially copyrighted at a specific office or at, you know, a governmental body with a full listing and examples of, okay, this is copyrighted material, and on top of all that, an actual, like, you know, amount of physical work to constitute some sort of copyright, other than like, hey, I have this an idea for a thing, I'm just gonna copyright it and blam, no one else can take it ever. You actually need some shit for that. So people that make stuff on like Fur Affinity, Weasley, wherever, and say, oh, it's a closed species, you can't copy it without my permission. Well, you know, you want to be respectful and stuff to the full artists and stuff like that, but on the legal grounds, there really isn't a whole lot holding that copyright. You know, they still have protection and stuff, and there it is, still a copyright there, but it's not like... There's still ways around it. You can copy it enough, you know, that, trying to think of the best way to put it without sounding weird. Jeez. Without a lot of work to kind of like fully flesh out what it is exactly you're copywriting, and then having that officially put down somewhere, there's not a whole lot to enforce it. Obviously, if I remember right, like, gosh dang, FA and Weasley and all those places try and keep track and enforce that and do something about it at least. But yeah, as far as a full like legal stuff goes, there's not a whole lot of things going on there. Um, you can try and take somebody to court over all that, and it's just gonna be a stupid mess. Like, okay, you can't both draw lizard dragons. Why not? Any case, I don't know. I personally just think it's generally not a great idea, or just, I don't know, silly. Silly is the best word I can think of it in my mind. Whatever. People have their stuff. They're special. As far as like a full species goes, I think it's silly. Like individual characters, if they're unique enough, like they have good reasons to be, then sure, I can see that. But in a general sense, I'm like, as far as species go. Personal Sona thing. If you've seen my avatar on Facebook and whatnot, it is a possum. He's super adorbs, and basically wears similar clothing that I do in real life. And really, his whole deal is that it's just kind of my own already real life representation into whatever digital spectrum. I know. So I don't have some sort of like weirdo backstory or whatever. It's just me. That's what it is. And I'm not saying having a backstory is weird or whatever. It's just not my cup of tea, so to speak. It's that. Gosh dang. That whole character-driven side of everything is not what is important to me in all this. It's, I enjoy drawing anthropomorphic animal stuffs and whatnot. That is basically why I'm here. And I don't need a super mega dragon thing with fire breath to be here. I'll just be quiet in my corner, drinking my coffee, and drawing all your crazy dragon fire breathy stuff for you. How does that sound? Good. Alright. I'm going to do some white in here. Oh my god. Yeah. Whew. Gonna need water instead of coffee next time. That's for sure. Alright. Almost there, though. Approaching the finish line. And like I said, we're just doing this really quick. Getting it done. Doing a sketchy sketch. And what's the nose? Okay. So it's going to go up between the eyes. Oh, God. Fighting cough. Fight. God, I failed. Kind of front area there. All right. And we're going to use... Where'd you go? Right here. I like this one. So that's another thing. If you use digital and stuff... what the fuck? Oh, derp. If you use digital and stuff, having a set of brushes and things you like, so different tools, kind of going on here. Like, these are my favorite presets. But if we go to all here, we got the number of airbrushes, basic tools, blocks and stuff, bristles, like different textured things, curvy line stuff, clone tools, erasers, pencils, brushes, and you get your fancy stamp like textury things, or making plants and other crap, different visual effects, and etc, etc, etc. So finding, some things that you can experiment with is handy dandy. And you can usually set up your own little favorites tab and have that going. But like I said before too, it's just about drawing. Just do it, and kind of over time, you'll find yourself drawn to the things that drawn. Um, to the tools and brushes and whatnot that you like to use the most. And that'll kind of help you figure out your own style and stuff like that. Oh shoot, the other part of that question was how would you go about helping someone decide their own OC and whatnot? So that is something I've done once or twice before now for like older friends of mine. When I wanted help for stuff. She could use some more like coloring on the paws or something else there. But yeah, they asked for general help and stuff. And what I typically do is just going off of like, hey, so what would your favorite sort of character be, or what would your favorite sort of animal be? Listing those out, like, you know, I swear to God, I'm gonna murder someone. If they're more of like a fan of like cats and stuff, you know, maybe we'll shoot for something more feline and sort of break that down to like maybe what their favorite region would be. Like regions, would they like mountains, do they like plains, do they like forests or whatnot, and then kind of check out, you know, okay, so like cats, they like forests, what sort of cats are in forests, and then kind of go through those and check those out and maybe find something that they like and sort of break it down like that. And same with colors and whatnot. Maybe see if they're like they like fall over summer or summer over fall, or they prefer spring, etc., etc., etc. Those all have their own like colors and stuff associated with them you can use, just as a nice starting place. Also, like just using maybe like natural colors from the animal too, that's fine, but like carrying that over into clothing, so just so it keeps a consistent kind of theme throughout the entire character. You know, it's not some like orange tiger thing with like neon yellow and red jumpsuit, like randomly, like McDonald's jumpsuit. Like keeping like some sort of suit or whatever, but like maybe a darker, like burnt orange or something like that. You know, similar lines. It keeps it looking tidier and consistent, and I think it just looks overall better. But you could be shooting for those like weird contradictory coloring stuffs. Going off the lock here. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Back on the lock. You know, so kind of like what I did here too. You know, we have the pink and stuff and these weirdo bright colors. So I decided, you know, we got blue and green, and those are good colors working together. But we don't have anything kind of... We have this purple going on here and this pink. So I was thinking something purple-ish to kind of go with things. I kind of feel like I want to add more to this, but... Yeah, just, I don't know. But maybe I'll talk to her later and maybe add some more stuff for her if she's interested. But this is looking good enough for me as far as stuff goes as a finished product, at least for the first video. Like I said, I'm hoping to do more and more videos as time goes on, having more questions, doing more stuff for you guys, and just generally trying to get myself drawing more and more. So hopefully you enjoyed my coughing fits and listening to me struggle in the silence, trying to figure out things to say. Using some of our special effects stuff here. Yeah. My computer isn't amazing, if you didn't notice. Which is also another point. You know, you don't have to have an amazing computer to draw a bunch of crazy shit. You just have to get a better idea of what you're doing and just practice at it, and eventually you'll come up with something good. Or get to a point where you enjoy it. You know. either way. So thank you so much for watching. I know I probably, it looks like there's a few other questions here, but a lot of them are kind of duplicates too. What's the hardest thing for me to draw anatomically? Oh geez. That's probably foreshortening on limbs and stuff. Like, definitely, like this, arms and legs going off into the distance or something like that is definitely, who, dear God. That is another thing to add depth to characters for the people who ask that, is look into foreshortening and kind of figure out exactly what that's all about. And it's basically never going to look right when you first start trying to do it. But keep on it. Where do you get your art style from? I've been drawing as long as I can remember, and consciously drawing, like, trying to go after anime, like, randomy stuff, or cartoon stuff I saw on TV for the last, 10 years. So it's kind of meshed together over time. If I could shapeshift into any animal, what would it be and why? Possum, because it's adorable as all hell, and hanging upside down, and immune to most diseases, and can deal with snakes and shit, and doesn't get rabid. Well, can't deal with snakes. I'm sorry. That's mongoose or whatever. And let's see. How do you set up a good reference sheet for a character? That kind of depends on how complex the character is. Like, if it's a simple, fox dude in a tuxedo, maybe you only need, a front and a side view. A front view to kind of get the details on a tuxedo and, facial stuff, and a side view to kind of show his build and whatnot. But if it's some character with, 6 limbs and is hunched over and has a few extra stuff, on its back or whatever, you may need 3 or 4 views to kind of show all those different details in that and kind of go through all that. And you can always do that with, little snapshots or little side views. You don't necessarily have to fully draw out the character every time. You'll also probably want to include, facial expressions or other things that kind of show the character of that character in your reference sheet. Like, what his personality is, or hers, either one. And something to help illustrate, who this person is that you are drawing the reference for. And, why they deserve a reference. Why are they a character worth knowing is kind of the extra details you need to add on there. But okay. Yeah, as far as I can tell, that's all the questions and stuff. I finished my sketch. I am dying slowly from coughing myself to death. Alrighty then. So, thank you all for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time in the next video. Feel free to keep an eye out, because I'll be picking another drawing, and hopefully going a little bit further than I did on this one. Alright, have a good one.